My name is Kendra Morales. After a week-long trip across Europe, I landed back in Miami on a late afternoon flight. The drive home felt peaceful, palms swaying along the road leading into Monaco estates. But as soon as my car rounded the final curve, I saw the familiar silver SUV parked directly in front of my gate trunk. Wide open, suitcases stacked high. My parents were standing on the front steps. My younger sister was right there with them, her husband holding their 6-year-old son while she cradled their sleepy 4-year-old daughter in her arms. They all turned when they heard my engine. My sister spoke first, voice sweet and full of excitement. "We heard you bought this luxurious villa in Monaco. The whole family came to move in with you and finally make things right again." I didn't answer. I simply stepped out of the car, walked to the gate, and unlocked it. Without a word, I pushed the heavy front door open and held it wide, gesturing for them to come inside. I wanted them to walk in on their own. I wanted them to see everything with their own eyes. Sunlight poured through the tall windows as they crossed the threshold. Suitcases rolled across the wooden floor, echoing in the quiet. Then, suddenly, the rolling stopped. No one took another step. No one spoke. The air carried only the faint warm scent of fresh bread drifting from deeper in the house. There were no grand chandeliers, no marble statues, no trace of the extravagant lifestyle they had clearly pictured. They just stood there frozen, staring at what was actually waiting for them inside. If this story hits close to home or makes you think about the boundaries you've had to set with family, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what you would have done in my place. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real stories about quiet strength and unbreakable limits. That late afternoon, Kendra Morales stood quietly in the grand foyer, watching her family cross the threshold one by one. Monaco Estates had always been an old neighborhood rebranded by real estate agents to sound exclusive. Cleverly angled photos on social media made the Mediterranean-style homes look like palaces, fooling anyone who hadn't seen it in person into thinking it was a playground for the ultra-wealthy. Kendra had spent years working as a financial advisor in downtown Miami. 5 years earlier, she had gone through a short, painful marriage that ended in divorce. After that, her family rarely called just to check in. The phone would ring only when they needed a loan or free advice on investments. Once the divorce was final, Kendra took her savings and bought this rundown villa at a steep discount. The previous owner had gone bankrupt. She renovated it little by little, turning the large house into a shared living space for women who needed to rebuild their lives. It wasn't a formal charity or shelter. There were no signs out front. It was simply a voluntary community where everyone cooked together, tended the garden, and supported one another through whatever they were facing. Ronald glanced around the open living area, his tone carrying a hint of disappointment. "The place is spacious. I'll give you that, but I thought there'd be imported furniture or something more upscale." Patricia ran her fingers along an old wooden table. "At least it's clean." Danielle sat her daughter down on the worn but comfortable sofa and smiled awkwardly. "I saw posts online saying Monaco Estates is full of millionaires only." Kendra said nothing. She simply motioned for them to follow her deeper into the house. They walked past the kitchen where pots simmered gently on the stove, past the dining area set with mismatched but sturdy chairs, and finally stopped in front of the largest wall in the main hall. Late sunlight streamed through high windows, illuminating dozens of framed photographs hung in neat rows. Each frame held a portrait of a different woman, some young, some older, smiling softly. Below every photo was a small handwritten card with a brief story. Ronald tilted his head, studying the wall. Patricia leaned closer to read one of the cards. Danielle shifted uncomfortably while holding her son's hand. Brandon sat down another suitcase with a thud. No one spoke for a long moment. The warmth from the kitchen drifted in, mixing with the quiet hum of the house. Kendra stood behind them, arms loosely at her sides, waiting. Ronald finally broke the silence. "Who are all these people?" Kendra's voice was calm and even. "Women who live here." Patricia turned slowly. "Live here? As in with you?" "Yes." Danielle frowned. "Like roommates? Like family?" Kendra replied. Brandon chuckled lightly as if it was a joke. You turned the place into some kind of group home. Kendra shook her head. It's a home, that's all. Ronald crossed his arms. We drove all the way from Orlando thinking you'd finally settled into something luxurious. The real estate listings made it look incredible. Patricia nodded. Everyone back home was talking about how you hit it big. Kendra almost smiled at the misunderstanding. The listings had been exaggerated. The name Monaco chosen deliberately to attract buyers dreaming of European glamour. In reality, the neighborhood was comfortable, but far from extravagant, about a 3-hour drive north from Orlando, close enough for a day trip if someone was determined. Danielle looked around again, noticing the simple furnishings, the absence of luxury brands. So, this is really how you live now? Kendra met her sister's eyes. This is exactly how I live. The children grew restless, the little boy tugging at Brandon's hand, wanting to explore. Patricia suggested finding the bedrooms upstairs. Ronald agreed already, heading toward the staircase as if the house were his to claim. Kendra didn't stop them. She followed quietly, letting them discover the rest on their own. Upstairs, the hallways led to modest bedrooms, each neatly made, some with personal touches, like bookshelves or small plants, but nothing lavish. One door stood open to a room with bunk beds and toys scattered neatly in bins. Another had a sewing machine on a desk. The master suite, Kendra's own, was simple. A large bed, a dresser, and windows overlooking the backyard garden. Brandon peeked into several rooms. Plenty of space. We can easily set up here for a while. Danielle brightened. The kids could have their own room. Ronald nodded approvingly. Good natural light. Better than our place. They returned downstairs more confident now. Patricia began opening kitchen cabinets, checking what food was stocked. Danielle sat at the dining table, pulling out her phone to take a quick photo, perhaps to send to friends back home. Kendra watched from the doorway, the framed photograph still glowing softly behind her in the fading light. Ronald settled into an armchair. Well, it's different from what we expected, but it'll work. Patricia agreed. We can make it feel more like home. Danielle looked up from her phone. How many people actually live here besides you? Enough to fill the rooms, Kendra said. Brandon leaned against the counter. And they pay rent or something. They contribute, Kendra answered. Everyone does. Ronald waved a hand dismissively. Family doesn't need to worry about that. We're not strangers. The conversation drifted toward plans where to put the suitcases, which rooms to claim first, what groceries they might need. The children ran around the living room, excited by the open space. Kendra remained quiet, listening to their assumptions fill the air. The scent of dinner beginning to cook grew stronger. Outside, birds settled in the palm trees as evening approached. She knew the real questions would come soon. For now, she let them talk. Let them imagine this was just a temporary misunderstanding about luxury that could be fixed with time. The wall of photographs watched silently from the hall, the women's stories waiting patiently in the softening light. Brandon was the first to break the silence. He pointed toward the staircase and asked, So, where's the master bedroom? The main one with the best view. Without waiting for an answer, he grabbed the largest suitcase and dragged it toward the hallway corner, as if he had already claimed the space. Danielle let her son down gently. The little boy immediately ran toward the wall of photographs, pointing at one frame after another with curious fingers. Who's that lady, Mommy? He asked, tugging at Danielle's sleeve. Ronald lowered himself into an armchair with a satisfied sigh. Finally, a place with enough room to actually retire properly. Patricia wandered toward the kitchen doorway, already peering in. Kendra, honey, where's the pantry? And is there a nice pull-out back? Kendra said nothing. She simply turned and led them down the hallway past closed doors and soft lighting. When everyone gathered in front of the large wall of framed photos again, Ronald squinted at one portrait and pointed. Who is this woman? Kendra answered quietly. Someone who once had nowhere to go back to. Patricia leaned in to read the small handwritten card beneath another frame. And this older lady here, someone whose own son took every penny of her retirement savings. Danielle forced a small laugh, but it sounded thin. Why hang up pictures of strangers? I thought rich people's walls were covered with art or family portraits. Brandon stepped closer, crossing his arms. What is this, your new hobby? Collecting photos of random people. Kendra shook her head slowly. These are the women who live here. A beat of silence followed. No one moved. Danielle looked at Kendra, her voice dropping. You mean you're letting strangers live in your house? Kendra met her sister's gaze. They're not strangers. They're my family. Ronald let out a short, incredulous laugh. Your family? You already have a family, Kendra. Patricia placed a hand on Ronald's arm. Let's not get dramatic. She's just being generous, that's all. Brandon tilted his head toward the staircase. So, how many of these family members are there? And do they pay rent or something? They contribute, Kendra said. Everyone contributes. Danielle's eyes narrowed slightly. Contribute. How cleaning, cooking, babysitting? Kendra didn't flinch. Whatever needs doing, we share the work. The little boy tugged at Danielle's hand again, pointing at another photo. Mommy, is she your friend? Danielle pulled him closer. No, sweetheart. She's someone your aunt knows. Ronald stood up from the armchair. Look, we drove 3 hours from Orlando. We're tired. Let's just pick rooms and unpack. We can talk about all this later. Patricia nodded enthusiastically. Yes, let's see the upstairs bedrooms. The kids need a place to settle. They started moving again, heading toward the staircase. Brandon dragged his suitcase behind him, wheels rumbling on the wood. Danielle carried her daughter, who was starting to wake up and rub her eyes. The boy ran ahead, excited by the open space. Kendra followed at a steady pace, letting them explore. Upstairs, they opened doors one by one. One room had a twin bed with a quilt and a small desk. Another had a double bed and a window overlooking the garden. A third was set up with bunk beds and a toy chest. Brandon pushed open the door to what looked like the largest guest room. This one's perfect. King bed. Good light. We'll take this. Danielle peeked inside. There's even a little sitting area. The kids can sleep here with us tonight. Ronald opened another door. This one's nice too. Quiet. I could use it for reading. Patricia smiled at Kendra. You've done well for yourself, even if it's not quite what we pictured. We're proud of you. Kendra stood in the hallway, arms folded loosely. She watched them move from room to room, assigning spaces as if the house already belonged to them. Downstairs, the faint sound of the oven timer beeped. Dinner preparations starting without anyone needing to be told. Danielle came back to the hallway still holding her daughter. So, when do the other women come back? Are they out shopping or something? They're at a class, Kendra said. A class? Brandon asked from inside the guest room. What kind of class? Financial planning? How to manage money, protect savings, build independence. Ronald chuckled from his chosen room. Sounds like a support group. It's practical, Kendra replied. Most of them came here with nothing. They leave with tools to stand on their own. Patricia stepped out into the hall. That's very kind of you, Kendra. But you don't have to do everything alone. We're here now. We can help. Kendra looked at her mother. Help with what? With running the house, Patricia said quickly. With the kids. With everything. Danielle shifted her daughter to the other hip. Yeah, we're family. We should be the ones helping you, not strangers. The boy ran past them, laughing as he chased an imaginary friend down the hall. Kendra watched him for a moment, then turned back to her sister. They're not strangers. They chose to be here, just like I chose to let them stay. Brandon appeared in the doorway, wiping his hands on his jeans. Look, we're not trying to cause trouble. We just need a place for a while. The coffee shop isn't doing great right now. We figured you had the space. Danielle nodded. It's temporary. Promise. Kendra didn't respond immediately. She glanced back toward the wall of photographs downstairs, visible through the open railing. The faces looked back quietly. Ronald called from his room. Hey, Kendra. Is there a TV in here? I like to watch the news at night. Kendra answered without raising her voice. There's one in the living room. Patricia smiled. See, well, be comfortable. This will be good for everyone. They began carrying suitcases upstairs, footsteps echoing through the house. The children's laughter mixed with the adults' quiet planning. Kendra remained in the hallway, listening to the sounds of her family settling in as if nothing had changed. The light outside was fading fast, turning the hallway shadows long and soft. The atmosphere grew heavier when Brandon proposed claiming the upstairs room overlooking the pool for his family. He leaned against the railing, gesturing outside. That spot gets the best breeze and view, perfect for us and the kids. Danielle chimed in right away. Absolutely. The grandchildren deserve their own play area without disturbing others. Ronald gave an approving nod. Right. Having everyone together under one roof will bring back that family feeling. Kendra cut straight to the point. Why arrive unannounced like this? Patricia fumbled for words, offering a weak smile. We thought a surprise visit would be fun, a way to patch things up and move forward. Brandon interjected, his words coming faster. Honestly, the coffee shop we run has hit some temporary setbacks. Word got around that you snagged this property in Monaco Estates for a huge amount, so we assumed you had extra space to spare. Danielle glanced down briefly before adding, just a short stay. A couple of months until business improves. Kendra held her sister's gaze longer than usual. She started listing past instances calmly. Remember the emergency call for roof repairs on your starter home? Or the startup capital you needed for the shop? Or the hours I spent sorting your tax issues without charging a dime? Ronald broke in sharply. You're making it sound worse than it was. Supporting each other is what families do. Patricia's tone turned accusatory. Now that you own this spacious house, you're unwilling to open it to your relatives. Kendra gestured toward the wall covered in framed portraits. I am opening it. But to individuals who truly require it and show gratitude for it. Brandon scoffed openly. Gratitude meaning scrubbing floors. Kendra, we're not signing up for manual labor. Danielle fidgeted with her daughter's hair. We could help out occasionally, of course, but blood relatives shouldn't have to prove themselves to stay. Ronald rose slightly from his chair. You've always marched to your own beat. Fine, but shutting the door on your mom, dad, and sister during hard times, that crosses a line. Kendra remained steady. None of you reached out after my divorce to see if I was okay. No casual check-ins, only requests when bills piled up or decisions went wrong. Patricia brushed it off. We assumed you wanted privacy. Your job paid well. You seem to have everything handled. Brandon scanned the open layout once more. Snorts, speaking of handling things, what was the final price tag on this villa? Online listings painted it as a multi-million-dollar gem. It came from a foreclosure auction, Kendra explained. The bank took it back after the owner defaulted. I negotiated low and handled renovations over time. Ronald lifted both eyebrows. Still turned out to be a smart investment. Danielle lowered her voice, which means you can afford to lend a hand now. It's the right thing. Kendra observed her niece toddling toward the play corner someone had set up for visiting children. The residents here showed up with barely anything. Some fled controlling partners with just clothes in a bag. Others watched savings vanish due to poor guidance or outright theft. They earned their place by participating fully. Brandon folded his arms tighter. So, we're expected to audition against them. We're your actual relatives. Kendra locked eyes with him. Actual relatives offer support before disaster strikes. Not solely when they require rescue. Patricia's cheeks wrinkled. That's harsh. Grandparenting on fixed income isn't cheap these days. Ronald piled on. Inflation hits everyone. We figured you'd relate. The boy dashed back in, waving a colorful block tower he'd built from toys left out. Grandpa looked. Ronald forced a grin. Great job, buddy. Keep building. Kendra seized the pause. I relate completely to needing assistance. That's the whole reason this home functions as it does. Respect and shared effort are the foundation, not automatic privilege. Brandon tried another angle. Privilege. We're talking basic shelter while we regroup. No free ride. Danielle promised quickly. We'll cover groceries or utilities once cash flow returns. Ronald suggested compromise. No need to fight tonight. Let's eat and cool off. Patricia perked up. A proper meal together. Haven't done that in years. Kendra stayed rooted. There's no simple return to how things were. You weren't present when I struggled alone. Now you arrive expecting instant accommodation because circumstances flipped. Silence settled briefly. Even the kids played more quietly, picking up on the strain. Brandon checked his watch. If you insist on sending us away, we'll need time to book something. Decent hotels nearby aren't cheap, Danielle murmured. We liquidated furniture just to make the trip viable. The kitchen filled with stronger aromas as automated timers signaled progress on the evening meal. Kendra held her ground near the entrance. You can remain overnight. Tomorrow morning, we discuss clear guidelines if longer stay is on the table. Ronald muttered. Guidelines for your own father. Guidelines that apply universally, Kendra clarified. No favorites. Patricia exhaled deeply. We'll think about it. The group drifted toward the dining area, pulled by hunger and the promise of food. The grandchildren led the way, chattering about what might be for supper. Kendra trailed behind, giving them space to process. She paused once in the hallway, letting her fingers brush one of the frames. The woman in that photo had arrived terrified and broke 3 years earlier. Now she managed the community budget flawlessly. Voices from the kitchen grew lighter as plates were set out. Laughter from the children echoed softly. Kendra joined them at the table's edge, ready for whatever came next over shared food. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the back door clicked open. Isla Torres entered first, carrying a paper bag filled with freshly baked bread from the local bakery down the road. She flashed a warm smile at Kendra and set the bag on the shared kitchen counter. Gloria Ramsey followed close behind, arms loaded with bundles of vegetables picked from the small garden out back. Vivian Hull brought up the rear, clutching a folder of handouts from the afternoon financial management class. Brandon eyed ISA with a smirk. You live here and still have to run out for bread. ISA shrugged lightly. I usually bake my own, but today I wanted to try the new place in town. Gloria placed the produce in the sink and turned to Kendra. Visitors today. Ronald spoke up quickly. We're family. Vivian offered a polite nod, but said nothing. She rolled up her sleeves and started rinsing the greens for dinner. Danielle watched the smooth routine unfold, her voice rising slightly. You really live like this? Like some kind of dorm? I thought you bought the house to finally relax and enjoy life. Kendra met her gaze evenly. I am enjoying it exactly like this. ISA pulled loaves from the bag, slicing one to share. The aroma filled the open space, drawing the children closer. The boy reached for a piece, and ISA handed him a small slice with butter already spread. Patricia observed the exchange. That's sweet, but surely there's a better system than everyone scrambling in the kitchen every night. Gloria dried her hands on a towel. We rotate. Keeps things fair. Brandon leaned on the island counter. Fair for who? We're guests, family guests. We shouldn't be expected to jump into chores right away. Vivian finally spoke, voice calm. No one jumps in right away. Everyone learns the rhythm when they're ready. Danielle set her daughter on a stool. Ready for what? Washing dishes. Gardening. This isn't summer camp. Ronald chuckled. I've got a bad back. Can't be hauling dirt or scrubbing pots. Kendra moved to the stove, stirring a pot that had been simmering. No one is forced, but everyone finds a way to give back. ISA passed slices to the grandchildren who munched happily. The girl offered a bite to her mother, who accepted with a small smile. Patricia tried a different approach. Kendra. Dear, you've built something nice here, but blood comes first. We need support now more than strangers do. Gloria paused while chopping carrots. Many of us arrived as strangers. Staying made us something else. Brandon waved a hand. That's different. We're not looking for handouts. We're in a temporary bind. Vivian arranged plates on the large dining table. Temporary binds are why most start here. Danielle's tone sharpened. So, you're comparing us to people who lost everything? We're not in that category? Kendra set serving spoons out. Categories don't matter. Willingness does. Ronald pushed back from the counter. Willingness to do what? Exactly. Act like hired help in my own daughter's house. Isla wiped crumbs from the boy's mouth. It's not hired help. It's living together. Patricia appealed directly. Kendra, think about the kids. They need stability, not a communal experiment. The grandchildren played quietly near the table, stacking slices into towers. Brandon tried reasoning. Look, we'll pitch in lightly. Maybe groceries or takeout sometimes, but full-time chores. Nora. Gloria smiled gently at the children. Little ones learn fast. They love helping with the garden. Danielle pulled her son closer. My kids aren't here to work. They're here to visit Grandma and Grandpa's daughter in her big new home. Kendra placed the main dish on the table. Simple pasta with fresh sauce from garden tomatoes. This home runs on participation. No exceptions create resentment. Vivian poured water into glasses. Resentment kills community faster than anything. Ronald shook his head. Community, this is a private residence. You own it, Kendra. You set the rules. I do. Kendra agreed. And the rule is simple: contribute or find somewhere else. Brandon laughed shortly. You're serious. You'd make your parents and sister scrub toilets. Isa sat down with the children, helping them with napkins. No one scrubs alone. We pair up. Patricia tried tears. After everything we've been through as a family, this is how you treat us. Kendra served portions to the kids first. I treat everyone the same. That's the point. Danielle whispered to her husband. This is ridiculous. We can't live like this. Ronald raised his voice slightly. We came for help, not judgment. Gloria passed the bread basket. Help comes with respect both ways. Vivian added quietly. Respect starts with seeing the value in shared effort. The children ate eagerly, unaware of the tension. The boy asked for more bread, and Isa obliged. Brandon pushed his plate away untouched. I'm not hungry anymore. Danielle followed suit. Neither are we. Patricia sighed dramatically. This could have been a nice family dinner. Kendra sat at the head of the table. It still can be. Food's here for anyone ready to eat together. Isel, Gloria, and Vivian began eating calmly, chatting softly about the class topics, budgeting apps, credit repair steps. The grandchildren continued munching, glancing between adults. Ronald stared at his plate. You're choosing them over us. Kendra looked around the table. I'm choosing a way of life that works for everyone who wants it. Silence fell over the room, broken only by the sounds of forks from those eating. Outside night settled, fully, lights from neighboring houses twinkling through windows. The untouched plate sat cooling in front of the visitors. Kendra finished her meal quietly, surrounded by the steady presence of the women who had become her chosen circle. Dinner had barely been served when the tension snapped tight. Danielle pushed her chair back and stared at Kendra. You're being ice cold to your own sister and these innocent kids. How can you sit there acting like we're intruders? Patricia's voice trembled with hurt. If you pick these outsiders over us, don't ever call us family again. Brandon leaned forward, palms flat on the table. You've got this huge house filled with random people, and you're ready to kick out your own blood. Kendra paused, fork in hand. She let the words hang for a long moment. Then she slowly looked around the dining area. Isa had picked up Danielle's sleepy daughter and was gently rocking her in the corner rocking chair. Gloria quietly added 2 more chairs to the table in case anyone changed their mind. Vivian stood close to Kendra's side, silent, but with eyes that showed unwavering support. Kendra set her fork down. Her voice stayed level, but every word carried weight. I'm not kicking anyone out. I'm simply refusing to keep people who don't respect this place or the women who live here. Ronald's face flushed red. You're choosing complete strangers over your own parents. Kendra nodded once. I'm choosing people who never turned their backs when I needed them. She drew a slow breath. Pack your bags. Leave tonight. Danielle's eyes filled instantly. You can't mean that. The kids are already in pajamas. Brandon shoved his chair back hard enough to scrape the floor. Fine, we'll go, but this is on you. He stormed toward the hallway, grabbing the nearest suitcase handle. The wheels thumped angrily down the corridor. Patricia reached for Kendra's arm. Please, honey, think about what you're doing. We're your parents. Kendra gently pulled away. I have thought about it for years. Ronald stood chest heaving. After everything we've sacrificed raising you. Kendra cut in softly. You sacrificed when it was convenient. When it wasn't, the calls stopped. Danielle scooped up her son, who had started to sense the upset. Tears streamed down her cheeks. You're breaking this family apart over some charity project. It's not charity, Kendra said. It's home for those who treat it like one. Isela continued rocking the little girl, humming low to keep her calm. Gloria folded napkins neatly, avoiding the chaos. Vivian placed a steady hand on Kendra's shoulder. Brandon returned with another bag face tight with fury. "We'll be out of your hair soon enough. Don't worry." Patricia tried one last plea, voice cracking. "At least let the grandchildren stay the night." "It's dark out." Kendra shook her head. "The offer stands for everyone or no one." Ronald grabbed his jacket from the chair. "You'll regret this when you're older and alone." Kendra met his eyes. "I was alone long before tonight." Danielle sobbed openly now, gathering toys scattered by the children. "How do we explain this to them that Aunt Kendra threw us out?" "Explain it however you need," Kendra replied. "But the truth is, simple respect isn't optional here." Brandon hauled the last suitcase to the door. "Let's go. We're not begging." Patricia lingered longest hand on the door frame. "This isn't the daughter I raised." Kendra's voice remained steady. "Maybe not, but it's the woman I became." The family filed out one by one. Ronald first stood back. Patricia next, dabbing her eyes. Danielle clutching both children, whispering apologies to them for the sudden move. Brandon last, slamming the trunk harder than necessary. The SUV engine roared to life outside. Headlights swept across the windows as they backed out. Gravel crunched under tires, then faded into the night. The front door clicked shut behind them. Silence flooded the house. No one cheered. No one spoke at first. Isa shifted the now sleeping girl to a guest crib set up in the corner room. Gloria began clearing the untouched plates from the visitors' side of the table. Vivian poured fresh water for those who remained. Kendra sat back down, exhaling slowly. Gloria broke the quiet. "You okay?" Kendra nodded. "Better than okay?" Isa returned, wiping her hands. The little one didn't even wake up. Vivian placed a cup of tea in front of Kendra. "You did what you had to." Kendra wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "It wasn't easy." Gloria smiled softly. "Easy isn't the goal, right?" As they finished the meal together. Smaller group, quieter conversation. Topics drifted to tomorrow's garden work, next week's class schedule. Simple plans that felt solid. The children from the community wandered in later for bedtime snacks, unaware of the storm that had passed. Kendra helped tuck a few into bed, reading short stories until eyelids drooped. Later, she stood at the window watching the empty driveway. The SUV's taillights were long gone. Isa joined her. "They'll find a motel." "It's not far." Kendra nodded. "I know." Gloria called from the kitchen. "Dishes done." "Lights out soon," Vivian added. "We can leave the porch light on just in case." Kendra turned from the window. "No need. They're not coming back tonight." The women exchanged understanding glances. One by one, they headed to their rooms. Soft goodnights echoed down hallways. Kendra lingered in the main hall, fingertips brushing the framed photographs. Each face reminded her why boundaries mattered. She switched off the last light, leaving only the gentle glow from the kitchen nightlight. The house settled into familiar quiet, the kind earned through trust, not obligation. Kendra climbed the stairs slowly. Her room felt the same, yet different, lighter. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the garden view, now bathed in moonlight. Snorts, no regrets surfaced, only clarity. The choice had been made long before tonight's words. Tonight simply confirmed it. Downstairs, the wall of portraits stood watch in the dark stories, silent but strong. Kendra lay back, listening to the soft creaks of the house and distant sounds of the women moving through their evening routines. For the first time in hours, she breathed fully. The storm had passed. The home remained intact. She closed her eyes, surrounded by the quiet strength of those who had chosen to stay and those she had chosen in return. 3 years later, Monaco estates looked much the same, from the street palm trees swaying, Mediterranean roofs glowing under the Florida sun. But Kendra's villa had transformed in ways no outsider would guess. The backyard garden now stretched across the entire rear lawn, rows of tomatoes, herbs, and greens thriving in raised beds built by the residents themselves. Classes on budgeting and baking happened right in the expanded kitchen area several evenings a week. Isla Torres had moved up to assistant manager at a local credit union downtown. She still drove home every evening, greeting everyone with the same warm energy. Gloria Ramsey led the budgeting workshops for newcomers, drawing from her own hard-won experience to teach practical steps for rebuilding credit and savings. Vivian Hole ran her independent financial consulting business remotely, often working from the quiet office nook she had claimed upstairs. The number of women sharing the house had grown to 15. Each had her own room decorated to taste and held steady employment, some in retail, others in healthcare or admin roles. Kendra spent mornings checking the garden irrigation or reviewing community expenses. Afternoons often involved welcoming someone new, a woman referred by a local support network arriving with little more than hope. One resident, a former teacher named Mara, had started a small tutoring program for neighborhood kids after school. Another, Lena, coordinated bulk grocery orders to keep costs down for everyone. Evenings brought shared meals, laughter drifting through open windows. Weekends meant group projects, painting a fresh coat on the fence or organizing the pantry shelves. Kendra occasionally heard updates about her blood family through mutual acquaintances who still lived near Orlando. The coffee shop Danielle and Brandon opened had shuttered permanently after mounting debts. Creditors took most assets. Danielle filed for divorce soon after citing irreconcilable differences over finances. She moved back in with Ronald and Patricia, all 4 adults, plus the 2 grandchildren, now sharing a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city, rented since the old family home was sold to cover outstanding loans. Ronald's pension covered basics, but little else. Patricia picked up part-time work at a grocery store for extra income. No birthday cards arrived, no holiday texts, no attempts at contact from any of them. Kendra snorts. Didn't seek out the details. When friends mentioned it casually, heard your sister's place closed. She simply nodded and changed the subject. She felt no satisfaction hearing about their struggles, no bitterness either. The news landed like information about distant acquaintances, relevant once no longer part of daily life. One afternoon, Kendra sat on the back porch watching residents harvest zucchini. Isa joined her with iced tea. New referral coming tomorrow, Isela said. Single mom, 2 teens, needs a fresh start after eviction. Kendra nodded. Well, make room. Gloria called from the garden. These tomatoes are prize winners this year. Laughter followed as someone held up an especially large one. Vivian appeared at the door with her laptop. Just closed a client contract. Bonus means we can replace the old washer. Cheers rose from the group. Kendra smiled at the easy camaraderie. No one kept score of contributions. Everyone simply did what needed doing. Later that week, a community barbecue filled the yard with music and conversation. Children from the house ran between legs, plates piled high. Snorts, Kendra circulated refilling drinks, listening to stories of job promotions or past certification exams. Mara shared how her tutoring side gig had turned full-time at a local center. Lena talked about negotiating a raise. No one mentioned past hardships unless offering advice to someone newer. Kendra paused by the garden edge, taking in the scene. The villa no longer felt like a solitary purchase. It pulsed with shared history. A former resident dropped by for the event. Now living independently downtown, thriving in her nursing career. She hugged Kendra tightly. This place saved me. Thank you. Kendra hugged back. You saved yourself. We just held the door open. As night fell, string lights twinkled over tables. Conversation stretched late. Kendra cleaned up alongside others, stacking chairs, wiping surfaces. The routine grounded her. Upstairs, she checked on the newest arrival, a quiet woman settling into her room with help from 2 others. Soft voices offered tips on local bus routes, best grocery deals. Kendra lingered in the hallway, listening to the house breathe with life earned through mutual respect. Her phone stayed silent. No surprise messages, no sudden outreach. She had stopped expecting any. The separation felt complete, not dramatic, simply factual. She no longer wondered what they thought or how they managed. Her energy flowed into the present, mentoring sessions, garden planning, celebrating small victories with those who showed up daily. One morning, Kendra found a handwritten note slipped under her door from a recent arrival. Thank you for giving me a chance to rebuild. This feels like home already. She pinned it to the community bulletin board downstairs. Others added their own notes over time, expressions of gratitude, shared recipes, ride offers. The board grew crowded with color and connection. Kendra stood before it, often tracing the words with her eyes. The villa had become more than walls and rooms. It was proof that chosen bonds could outlast blood ties when built on trust. She walked the garden paths at dusk, checking plants, breathing in earth and evening air. Isa waved from the porch swing. Gloria called good night from an upstairs window. Vivian's light stayed on late working. Kendra returned inside, locking up for the night. The house settled around her, familiar creaks, distant murmurs, the soft hum of lives intertwined by choice. She realized the distance from her original family no longer acted. It simply existed like an old scar that no longer hurt. Her story had moved forward. Chapter closed, new pages filling steadily. The women here weren't replacements. They were the family she had built, one rooted in presence, effort, and unconditional regard. Kendra turned off the last lamp, leaving the hallway, night light glowing. Upstairs, her room waited simple, peaceful. She slept soundly, surrounded by the quiet strength of those who stayed. Tomorrow would bring more growth, literal in the garden, figurative in the lives unfolding under this roof. The past, snorts, had its place. Far behind. The present held everything she needed. Every early morning, Kendra Morales stood by the large window overlooking the garden. Children's laughter mixed with lively conversation drifting up from the kitchen below. Sunlight filtered through leaves, casting patterns on the floor. She realized the greatest strength wasn't watching old connections struggle. It was creating a space no one could invade, peace protected by mutual respect. Family wasn't defined solely by blood. It was built by those who chose to stay, chose to listen, chose to honor each other's boundaries. The villa in Monaco Estates had shed its old reputation as a symbol of wealth. Rumors faded. It became simply a large home filled with people who valued one another deeply. Kendra smiled, watching Isa kneel beside a new young resident, showing her how to plant seedlings gently in fresh soil. Gloria shared a light-hearted story from the porch, drawing chuckles from the group gathered there. Vivian jotted notes on the community board planning next month's workshop. She knew she had chosen correctly, not out of revenge, but to live fully on her own terms. Days blended into routines that felt natural. Mornings started with coffee shared on the patio, discussions about work shifts or school pickups. Afternoons brought focused tasks, someone repairing a fence section, another organizing donation drives for local shelters. Evenings often ended with group walks around the neighborhood or movie nights in the living room, blankets spread across couches. New faces arrived steadily. Each brought her own history. Each left stronger. Kendra guided without controlling, offering advice only when asked. One resident started a book club that met weekly. Another launched a small catering side business using kitchen skills honed here. Kendra joined when she could, but mostly observed content in the background. She kept her financial advisory work part-time, consulting remotely. Income covered property taxes and upgrades, while resident contributions handled daily expenses. No one tracked hours or dollars closely. Balance came naturally from shared commitment. Kendra occasionally mentored one-on-one, reviewing resumes, practicing interview questions, celebrating job offers. Milestones marked the calendar, first paychecks. New apartments leased, children excelling in school. Snorts. Departure parties were bittersweet tears mixed with pride as women moved into independent living. The house never stayed empty long. Word spread quietly through networks of those who understood. Kendra's own room remained simple. A few photos on the dresser showed group outings, holiday gatherings, everyday moments captured spontaneously. No images from before the change hung anywhere. She ran fingers over one frame showing last year's harvest festival, faces glowing under string lights, tables loaded with homegrown food. That night had felt like true celebration. She thought often about the true meaning of revenge. It wasn't punishment. It was freedom, building something untouchable by past toxicity. Quiet justice lived in daily choices, saying no when needed, saying yes to those who earned trust. Kendra walked the garden paths at dusk, checking irrigation lines, pulling occasional weeds. Residents waved from windows or porches. Isa called out about dinner plans. Gloria mentioned fresh bread cooling inside. Vivian asked if supplies needed restocking. Simple exchanges, yet they carried weight. Kendra answered, each feeling rooted. Nights brought calm. She read in bed or journaled thoughts. Reflections on growth, gratitude lists, ideas for improvements. Sleep came easily now. Dreams stayed peaceful. She woke refreshed, ready for whatever the day held. The community evolved constantly. New skills shared, new bonds formed. Kendra facilitated, but never dominated. Leadership meant enabling others to lead, too. Residents took turns organizing events, managing schedules, resolving minor conflicts. The system worked because everyone benefited from its success. Kendra, snorts, stood on the porch one evening watching fireflies blink in the yard. A young resident approached hesitantly. "I got the promotion today," she said, eyes shining. Kendra hugged her. "You earned it." More joined the celebration, impromptu toast with lemonade stories, swapped about first jobs, early struggles. Laughter rose into the warm air. Later, alone again, Kendra reflected on the journey. She had started with one empty house and personal savings. Now it overflowed with purpose. The real victory wasn't separation from those who took without giving. It was surrounding herself with those who gave without taking. True family showed up consistently, respected limits, celebrated wins, shared burdens. Blood ties mattered less than daily actions. Kendra understood now revenge at its purest was living well unapologetically in a space built on healthy foundations. Others couldn't touch that peace because they had never valued it. She turned off outdoor lights, locking doors for the night. The house settled around her, soft footsteps upstairs, muffled conversations winding down. Kendra paused at the wall of portraits now expanded with recent additions. Each face told a story of resilience. Hers fit among them, not as savior, but as fellow traveler who opened the door wider. She whispered goodnight to no one in particular. Upstairs, her bed waited. Tomorrow would bring new growth, plants pushing through soil. People pushing through challenges. Kendra embraced it all. She had learned the deepest lesson. Strength blooms when you protect your peace fiercely and share it generously with those who protect theirs too. The villa stood quiet under stars, a beacon not of wealth, but of chosen connection. Kendra slept deeply, heartful, future open. Her life finally was exactly as she intended, rich, in ways no rumor could capture.